The wealthy and feared Mafia boss Stephen Romano had spent years building a reputation as the coldest on the city had ever seen. Distant, controlled, and impossible to read. But the truth was that he was exhausted from a life spent surrounded by people who wanted his power more than his presence. 3 days ago, after a brutal ambush that left 2 of his bodyguards dead and a traitor still hidden in his inner circle, he made a decision that even he didn't fully understand. He staged his own death. The official story: massive heart attack from stress. The reality: he was lying in a sealed vault inside his penthouse, paralyzed by sedatives, listening to every word spoken about him through hidden microphones. Maybe he wanted to find the traitor. Maybe he wanted to hear what people truly thought when they believed he was gone. Or maybe he was simply tired of being the ghost and needed to disappear. But everything changed when Angela, the new maid who had been working in his mansion for only 3 months, walked into the vault. Stephen had never paid attention to her. She was quiet, invisible, always keeping her head down. But now, as she entered with a cleaning cloth and a bucket of water, he sensed something different. Her footsteps were hesitant. Her breathing was quick, almost trembling. She approached the velvet-draped table where his body lay, and then something shocking happened. She touched his hand gently, and her voice cracked as she whispered, "They think you're a monster, Mr. Stephen. But they don't see the man who lost his heart that day." Stephen, paralyzed and unable to move, felt his entire world tilt. Nobody had spoken about his past. Nobody knew about Sophia. How does she know? Before I continue, please take a moment to subscribe. My husband said I can't reach 1,000 subscribers. Let's prove him wrong. Now, let's continue. People whispered about Stephen Romano. They called him the Ghost, a man who was never seen, only felt. His empire was built on precision, paranoia, and the absolute destruction of anyone who questioned him. But beneath the bulletproof glass and bespoke suits, Stephen was haunted. 10 years ago, his sister Sophia died in an ambush he believed was meant for him. That loss turned him into a monster. Every decision, every execution, every drop of blood, it was all revenge for Sophia. Now, lying in his own staged funeral, injected with sedatives that left him conscious but completely paralyzed, he was listening to the truth about everyone around him. And the truth was brutal. For 48 hours, Stephen lay in silence, listening through the hidden microphones. He heard Vinny, his consigliera, his most trusted advisor, on the phone, calmly discussing funeral arrangements. But then Vinny said something else. "The offshore account is ready. Transfer the funds tonight." Stephen's blood ran cold. Vinny, the man I trusted with everything. The man who's been selling me out. But he couldn't move. Couldn't react. The sedative held him prisoner in his own body. He had to keep listening. Who else is involved? How deep does this go? Then he heard Marco, his captain, openly weeping in the hallway. The sound was raw, genuine, heartbreaking. Marco's loyal. At least one person actually cared. But then came his Aunt Lucia, screaming hysterically about the inheritance, demanding to know where Stephen kept his offshore accounts. Greed confirmed. The plan was working. He was gathering evidence. But lying there, helpless, Stephen realized something devastating. He was nothing but a commodity. A feared ghost. The Mafia life had given him power, but it had stripped away every shred of humanity. Is this all I am? A corpse people fight over? Then Angela entered the vault. She wasn't supposed to be there. The guards outside had strict orders. No one enters except for the final transfer. Stephen's mind raced. Why is she here? Did Vinny send her to confirm I'm dead? Is this the final betrayal? Angela moved quietly, carrying a small bucket of water and a cloth. She ignored the chaos of papers on the mahogany desk and focused only on cleaning the perimeter of the room. Her movements were steady, but there was something different about her. She paused by the table. Stephen could sense her presence, the faint scent of lemon and linen. His eyes were fixed on the ornate ceiling above. He couldn't even blink. Then she did something that shattered his mind. She touched his hand. Gently. Almost reverently. What is she doing? Angela's voice was barely a whisper, filled with a sorrow that felt impossibly real. They think you're a monster, Mr. Stephen. The papers, your men, they only see the ghost of a man who takes lives. She paused, wetting her cloth. But they don't see the man who lost his heart that day. They don't see the brother who tried to protect the one thing he ever loved. Stephen's internal world exploded. No one speaks about Sophia. No one knows about her. How does this woman, this maid I barely noticed, know about my sister? He wanted to rip the wires from his ear and demand answers. But the sedative held him captive. He could only listen. Angela carefully wiped his forehead, her tears falling silently onto his hand. You don't know who I am, Stephen. Of course you don't. I was just a ghost to you. But I saw what you did for her. I saw what you tried to do for me. For her? For me? Angela moved away from the table, her voice breaking. I didn't take this job for the money, Stephen. I took it to get close to you. I took it because 10 years ago, on the day that made you this dawn, you were just a scared young man fighting like hell to protect his sister and me. Stephen's memory flashed violently. The ambush, the crowded street, the delivery truck crashing, gunfire everywhere. He remembered grabbing Sophia, fighting the Bellari gunmen with everything he had. But there was something else, a small detail he'd always suppressed. A terrified girl, screaming near the truck, caught in the crossfire. He'd shoved her toward a doorway, shouting for her to run, just seconds before the bullet found Sophia. Angela's voice trembled as she continued. I was that girl, Stephen. I was running from an abusive situation, hiding near the warehouse. The Bellaris weren't just after you that day. They were after a small rival gang I was related to. My brother was a courier for them. Stephen's paralyzed body felt like it was burning from the inside. The girl. The one I pushed away. She's been here this whole time? Angela wiped her eyes, struggling to continue. Sophia saw me. She saw I was terrified, and she pulled me under her arm before you even got there. She protected me for a moment before the shooting started. You saved me when you pushed me away, out of the line of fire. Sophia protected her. Sophia, who always saw the good in everyone. Of course she did. I searched for you, Stephen. I wanted to thank you. But when I found you, you were already untouchable. The ghost. So, I applied here. I just wanted to be close enough to say thank you before. Her voice broke. Before you ended up like this. She was crying harder now, her hand gripping his shoulder. I'm so sorry you look so cold and lonely. I don't know how to reach the man who saved my life. Stephen felt something he hadn't felt in 10 years. Raw, unfiltered emotion. Not rage. Not vengeance. Just grief. Angela's hand moved to his shoulder. A desperate, comforting gesture. The sedative was beginning to wear off slightly. Stephen could feel the faintest tingling in his fingers, but he still couldn't move. And that brings me to the real reason I'm here. The reason I applied for this job. The reason I had to tell you the truth, even if you never hear it. Stephen felt a profound, chilling sense of dread. What is she about to say? Stephen, you believe the Bellaris killed Sophia because she was your sister. That's what drove you to destroy them and become the Dawn. That's the story you told yourself. Angela took a deep, shuddering breath. It's a lie. No. The Bellaris weren't targeting you that day. They were targeting me. Or rather, they were targeting the rival gang who was sheltering me. Stephen's entire body went rigid. No. That can't be right. All the blood. All the years. Everything I've built. Sophia wasn't an innocent bystander in a hit on you. She was a hero protecting a scared stranger. When she pulled me under her arm, the Bellari driver saw me, the target. When they fired, Sophia threw her body fully in front of mine. Angela's voice was barely audible now. She died saving me, Stephen. Not just defending you. She died because she was the kind of person who would sacrifice herself for a terrified stranger. The empire Stephen had built for 10 years, the blood-soaked throne of vengeance based on the belief that his sister was a casualty of his war, was a lie. She wasn't just his loss. She was a hero who died protecting a girl he barely noticed. His entire identity, his paranoia, his Don persona, it was all built on a monstrous misinterpretation. Sophia died protecting a stranger. Not because of me. Because of her kindness. Angela pulled a folded, aged piece of paper from her pocket, a ledger page, yellowed and worn. I have the proof, Stephen. The intercepted files. The rival gang's ledger. I've been holding on to it, waiting for the right moment. I was terrified you'd hate me for being the reason she died, but you deserve the truth. She placed it carefully near his head. You deserve to know that your sister died a saint, not a casualty. The emotional intensity was too much. The shock. The paralyzing guilt. The seismic shift in everything he believed. It broke through the sedative's hold. Stephen's eyelids fluttered, then snapped open. His eyes were wide, terrifying, filled with tears. He wasn't looking at Angela, he was looking through her, at the memory of Sophia. A sound, guttural and strained, tore from his throat. Sophia. Angela. Angela screamed. She dropped her cloth, stumbling backward from the table, her face a mask of pure terror. The dead Don was alive. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you were dead. I should never have said anything. She fell to her knees, hyperventilating, begging for forgiveness and silence. He's going to kill me. I just told the most dangerous man in the city his entire life is a lie. Stephen, using every ounce of willpower, slowly lifted his hand, the first movement he'd made in 72 hours. His fingers trembled. He reached for her wrist and grasped it. The strength, even diminished, was shocking. Stop, Stephen rasped, his voice raw and broken. He pulled her gently closer. You have carried my war, my burden for 10 years. You are the only one who told me the truth. Tears streamed down both their faces, hers of fear and relief, his devastating, liberating grief. The traitors outside. Vinny's betrayal. The power. The money. The empire. It all seemed meaningless now. Stephen finally let go of the rigidity that had defined him for a decade. He realized his original purpose, to protect and honor Sophia, was utterly misguided. The real honor was in her kindness, not his vengeance. Stephen forced himself to sit up, his body protesting every movement. Angela stayed frozen, still terrified, still kneeling. The Bellairs are gone, Stephen murmured, his voice gaining strength. I destroyed them. Every last one. But the traitor, Vinny, he's still out there. He looked into Angela's eyes, and for the first time in 10 years, he saw someone who wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid for him. You said you wanted to repay me. You just did. You gave me back my life, Angela, by giving me the truth about the one I lost. He gripped her hand tightly, his Mafia boss persona dissolving, leaving behind a scarred but newly vulnerable man. But now, I need your help. Vinny thinks I'm dead. He's moving money, consolidating power, probably planning to take over the entire organization. If I reveal myself too soon, he'll run. Or worse, he'll strike first. Angela's fear began to shift into something else. Determination. What do you need me to do? Stephen stood, his legs shaky, but his mind razor-sharp. The sedative was wearing off completely now, replaced by adrenaline and purpose. You're going to be my eyes and ears. You're already invisible to them. They don't see you as a threat. You'll stay in this house, keep cleaning, keep listening. Vinny will reveal himself fully, if he thinks I'm gone. Angela nodded, her hands still trembling. But what about you? You can't just walk out of here. Everyone thinks you're dead. Stephen's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. More like a predator baring its teeth. I'm going to stay dead. For now. But when Vinny makes his move, when he thinks he's won, I'm going to remind him why they call me the ghost. He looked down at the ledger Angela had brought, the proof that his entire war was based on a lie. Sophia died protecting you. She died being kind. I've spent 10 years being a monster in her name. Maybe it's time I honored her the right way. Angela stood, wiping her tears. She looked at Stephen with a mix of awe and fear. There's something else you need to know. Vinny isn't working alone. Stephen's eyes narrowed. Of course he isn't. I've been listening, Mr. Stephen. For 3 months I've been cleaning these halls, invisible, ignored. I've heard things. Vinny has been meeting with someone from outside the family. I don't know who, but they're planning something big. Something that involves your death as the catalyst. Stephen felt the familiar rush of strategic thinking flood back. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a coup. Do you know when? 3 days. Your funeral. They're planning to use it as a cover to move something or someone into the city. I heard Vinny on the phone 2 nights ago. He said, once he's buried, we move the shipment. Stephen's jaw clenched. A shipment? Drugs? Weapons? Or something worse? There's more, Angela said, her voice dropping to a whisper. Your Aunt Lucia. She's in on it. Stephen's world tilted again. Lucia? Family? She's been meeting with Vinny in secret. I saw them together in the East Wing library 2 days ago. She was crying, but not sad crying, angry crying. She kept saying, he should have given me more. I'm his blood. Stephen closed his eyes. The betrayal was deeper than he thought. Vinny and Lucia. His consigliera and his own family. How many others? Who else? Angela hesitated. I don't know for sure, but I think Dr. Russo might be involved too. He was the one who declared you dead. He could have examined you properly, found the sedative, exposed the whole plan. But he didn't. Stephen nodded slowly. Russo. Of course. He's been on Vinny's payroll for years. The rot wasn't just deep. It was everywhere. Stephen turned to Angela, studying her face. She was young, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes that had seen too much. She looked like someone who had been running her entire life. Why did you really come here, Angela? The truth. She looked down, her hands twisting the cleaning cloth. Because I owe you my life. Because Sophia gave me hers. And because... She took a shaky breath. Because I've been alone for 10 years, just like you. I thought if I could just see you, just be close enough to say thank you, maybe I could finally stop running. Her voice broke. But when I got here, I saw you. The ghost. The monster everyone feared. And I realized you were still running too. From the same thing I was. From guilt. Stephen felt something crack inside his chest. She was right. He'd been running from Sophia's death for a decade, building walls of violence and power to avoid facing the truth, that he couldn't save her. I'm tired, Angela. I'm so tired. It was the first honest thing he'd said in years. Angela looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. Then let's stop running. Together. Stephen's funeral was set for tomorrow. The entire Mafia underworld would be there, allies, rivals, politicians, cops on the payroll. It would be the perfect stage for Vinny's play. But Stephen had a different script in mind. He spent the next 24 hours in hiding, working with Angela to gather every piece of evidence they could find. She moved through the mansion like a shadow, photographing documents, recording conversations, feeding everything back to Stephen in the sealed vault. Marco, the loyal captain, was brought into the fold. When Stephen revealed himself, Marco nearly collapsed from shock, then embraced him like a brother. I knew you wouldn't leave us, Marco whispered. The plan was simple but brutal. Let Vinny think he'd won. Let him make his move at the funeral. Then expose him in front of everyone. But there was a problem. Angela discovered that the shipment Vinny was planning to move wasn't drugs or weapons. It was people.
Children.
A human trafficking ring that Vinny had been building in secret, using Stephen's name and resources as cover. When Stephen learned this, something inside him snapped, not into rage, but into cold, calculated fury. Sophia died protecting a stranger. I'm going to honor her by protecting the people Vinny is trying to destroy. The funeral was held at the Romano estate, a sprawling Gothic mansion on the outskirts of Viridia. Hundreds of people filled the grand hall, Mafia families, business associates, politicians, and the press. Vinny stood at the podium, delivering a eulogy that dripped with false sorrow and barely concealed ambition. Stephen Romano was a great man, a protector, a leader, and though he is gone, his legacy will live on through those of us who remain. Aunt Lucia sobbed dramatically in the front row. Dr. Russo stood in the corner, stone-faced. The whole scene was a performance. And then the lights went out. When they came back on, Stephen Romano was standing at the back of the hall, alive, eyes blazing with fury. The room erupted into chaos. Gasps. Screams. People stumbling over chairs. Vinny's face went white as a sheet. "Surprise," Stephen said, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "Did you miss me?" Stephen walked slowly down the center aisle, flanked by Marco and a dozen loyal soldiers. Every eye in the room was on him. "I know what you're thinking," Stephen said, addressing the crowd. "How is he alive? Why did he fake his death?" "Well, I'll tell you." He stopped in front of Vinny, who was frozen at the podium. "I wanted to see who would betray me. And boy, did I get my answer." Stephen pulled out a folder, thick with documents, recordings, photographs. He tossed it onto the podium. "Vinny here has been stealing from the family for 2 years. Offshore accounts, dummy corporations, money laundering. But that wasn't enough. He decided to expand into human trafficking. Children, Vinny? Really?" The crowd gasped. Even in the Mafia world, some lines don't get crossed. Vinny finally found his voice, stammering. "Stephen, I can explain." "Explain?" Stephen's voice was ice. "Explain how you used my name to build a trafficking ring? Explain how you conspired with my own family to steal my empire." He turned to Aunt Lucia, who was trying to slip toward the exit. "Don't even think about it, Lucia." Marco's men surrounded Vinny and Lucia, along with Dr. Russo, who had tried to disappear into the crowd. Stephen stood at the center of the room, holding all the power, all the evidence, all the rage. 10 years ago, he would have executed them on the spot. No trial. No mercy. But then he saw Angela, standing quietly near the door, watching him with those tired, knowing eyes. Sophia died being kind. Stephen took a deep breath. "Here's what's going to happen. Vinny, Lucia, Russo, you're done. The evidence goes to the feds. You're going to spend the rest of your lives in prison. And every child you were planning to traffic? I'm going to personally make sure they get home safe." Vinny lunged forward, desperate, but Marco's men restrained him. "You're weak, Stephen. You've gone soft. This is the Mafia. There are rules." Stephen leaned in close, his voice deadly quiet. "No, Vinny. I'm not weak. I'm just done being a monster in the name of someone who has never won herself." He straightened, addressing the room. "This empire was built on blood. My sister's blood. And I'm tired of it. So here's the new rule. We're going clean. Legitimate business. No trafficking. No unnecessary violence. Anyone who doesn't like it can walk away now." The room was silent. The feds arrived within the hour. Vinny, Lucia, and Russo were arrested on the spot, along with several other conspirators. The trafficking ring was dismantled before the shipment could move. Stephen stood in the now empty Grand Hall, watching the chaos through the tall windows. Marco approached, cautious. "Boss, what now?" Stephen didn't answer immediately. He was thinking about Sophia, about Angela, about 10 years of being a ghost. "Now? We rebuild. But we do it right this time." Marco nodded and left to coordinate with the authorities. Angela approached slowly, still carrying her cleaning supplies like armor. "You did the right thing, Stephen." He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since she'd entered his life 3 months ago. "I couldn't have done it without you. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever." "What's that?" "My humanity." Stephen and Angela stood together in the quiet aftermath. Outside, the sun was setting over Viridia, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "What will you do now?" Angela asked softly. Stephen thought about it. For 10 years, his entire identity had been built on vengeance and power. Now, stripped of both, he felt strangely free. "I don't know. Maybe something Sophia would be proud of." Angela smiled, a real, genuine smile that lit up her tired face. "She'd be proud of you today." "I know I am." Stephen reached out and took her hand, the same way she had taken his when he lay paralyzed and broken. "You said you wanted to stop running." "So did I. Maybe we can figure out how to do that together." Angela squeezed his hand. I'd like that. They stood there, two people scarred by the same tragedy, finally finding peace in the truth. The ghost and the girl he saved. Connected by loss, but choosing to move forward together. Stephen looked up at the sky, thinking of Sophia. I hope you can see this, sis. I'm finally doing what you would have wanted. I'm choosing kindness over vengeance. I'm choosing life over death. I'm choosing to stop being a ghost. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. My husband challenged me that I can't reach 1,000 subscribers. Let's prove him wrong.